Alright, so I got my radio, got my Tyrannus, and I just created a model real quick and bound it to this receiver. You see I got the steady green light, the receiver's bound, and so now my battery is powering my ESC. The BEC on the ESC is providing 5 volt to the receiver, and the receiver is providing 5 volt to these servos. And as you can see, I was correct in thinking that it was not centered, and you can see that these do move. So that's the center of the servo. So now you want to go ahead and put that on it 90 degrees to that servo. Now, once you've done this, if it gets knocked out of there, it doesn't matter. It's going to center back to this position. So we're going to get our screw out and just go ahead and screw that right in there, so that we know that we are at 90 degrees on this servo. Then that is centered. That might have seemed like a lot of work to go through just to center servos, soldering on an ESC, but stuff you're going to have to do anyway. So might as well just do it now and get it over with. Alright, so now you see this is my, my servo movement. And it returns back to that 90 degree position. Yep. Alright, let's get the other one. This one moves too. Since we set up a new model, I know there's not any trims or anything, so these are going to be facing opposite directions like this. So we want the other arm sticking out 90 degrees in the other direction. It's not quite 90 degrees, but let's see if we get a little closer. You can get as close as you can to 90 degrees. You just want to match them, make sure they're matched. That's even more important. Okay, that's as close to 90 degrees as we're going to get it. You can kind of feel when you're putting the arm on, there's teeth, and you can't go in between teeth. You got to either choose that tooth or that tooth. So okay, I've got that one on at 90 degrees. I'm going to put a screw in, and then we can power down this system, so we don't need power on it anymore. Okay, so you can see that one also moves, both servos move. So, both seem to be working fine. Okay, we can unplug it. And turn off our radio, and we can set the radio to the side. We'll work on that later. And we just get all this cleared off. We don't need the soldering iron anymore. We don't need the ESC anymore or the receiver. We just need these servos. And we're going to go ahead and install them into our wing and start getting our control system set up. So, I'm going to pause the video and come back in a minute, get all this stuff cleared off the desk, and get ready to go. So, see you in a few minutes. Alright, so we're back. We're about to install some servos. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do servo installs. And let me start with the geometry aspect of servos. So you can install a servo like this so that the control rod is parallel to the airflow. This is the way a lot of racers like to install their servos, to keep the minimum amount of airflow. But the problem with that is it causes extra stress here at the hinge, and causes your servo to have to work harder because it has to pull this on an angle. Okay, so a lot of other people say what you should do is you should install your servos parallel to the control surface like this, so that the control surface is parallel, so that the servo has to work the minimum amount to pull this up, and don't worry about the airflow. The other thing you will need to worry about is where you're putting your servo on your wing, because if you put your servo here, that's going to be behind the center of gravity. The center of gravity is way up here, so about here. So if you put your servo back here, you'll be weighting the tail of your wing, and it's going to be harder to make CG. So you want your servo as far forward as you can get it, but then you run out of wing space. So we're going to have to put this servo like here. Now, I may be able to fit it like that, like this right here. And I think I can, and that would put, the geometry would be correct, because, and it's not going to have to work as hard, and I'm not really that concerned about airflow over this wing. And I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to install the servo like that. Now, the other thing you can do, there's two ways to install servos actually into the wing. You can lay your servo down like this, so that your control rod moves like in an up and over fashion like that, which is good for the geometry because that's the way this control horn is going to move, so they're both going to move together. Or you can install them right up like this, upright, where you cut down into the wing and install that upright. Now, that's kind of easier to install it that way, but you have one servo horn moving around this way, and one servo horn moving up and over this way, and that can cause some geometry problems. But again, this wing is so small, and the forces are going to be so small in this, I don't think that's going to be a problem. So I think I'm going to go ahead and install these upright like this. And I'm going to install them right here, as far out in the wing as I can get, and as far forward in the wing as I can get away with. Because that right there, parallel to this surface, that's going to put my control horn. You have to think about where your control horn is going to go, and if there's enough meat on the control horn, on the control surface, to grab that horn and keep it there. That's the other control horns. There they are. Nope, that's the quick locks. We'll need those soon. Got just a box full of parts here. The other control horns. Never mind, you throw control horns. There they are. So we get our control horn out here. Okay, so we've got our control horn here, and from the end of that, we're going to put it right about there. And yeah, there's enough wood there for that control horn to be placed in that position. Okay, so we're going to measure out from the edge of this. How far out are we along this spar? We use this spar as a straight edge. And we are 1, 2, 3, 4 inches to the inside corner of that. And then that is parallel, yes, on a 90-degree angle to that. So that right there is exactly where I want my servo. So I'm going to push it forward just a little bit. So 4 inches, 4 inches out. And then just ahead of that spar, and yeah, on a square with that right there. Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a blade and just trace around it real tight, and just break this this laminate a little bit, just enough so I can peel it up. Hopefully I did. Did I? I don't think I did. Oh, let's see what else I have. I've got a marker that'll work. Okay, so 4 inches out. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's right there. Yep. Hopefully I'll be able to see that mark that I'm making. Yeah, no problem. Good. That laminate that's really stuck down. That's really good, because that's what you want. It does not want to come loose. There we go. Okay, so I've got the square right there. That's where my servo is going to go. Now, this servo, yeah, that's pretty much the thickness of this wing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut all the way through the wing. I'm just going to cut a hole straight down through the wing and install the servo straight in the through hole. And if that doesn't work out and the servo is not level with the bottom of this wing, I'll just take some of this foam that I cut out and just fill in the bottom. And I'll show you what I mean if we need to, but I think this is going to work out just fine with cutting all the way through. I'm going to lock my blade. Nice long blade here. There we go. That's through. This is why you want to use a snap. This is why I told you need a snap knife and a craft knife, because you need a snap knife for things like cutting all the way through this wing in a parallel line like this. There we go. Let's do the other side. You know, I saw someone else do a build of this, and this is the way he installed his servos, and it's, I believe it was FPV Aviator. I can't remember his name. Ty Durbridge, and this is the way he installed his servos, in a straight through. And I remember seeing that and saying, it's probably the way I'm going to do mine. And after thinking about it, it is the way I'm going to do mine. So, let me just connect these cuts. Oh, let me do it on the top. There we go. It's a little hard to get that knife all the way through there, but there we go. Okay. And I'm just going to pop that square foam right out of there. So there you go. Just cut a hole in my wing. You can see right through it. I'm going to take this servo and stuff it in there. Actually, I'm going to use the other servo. Where's the other servo? Ah, that's a thing of beauty. Put that backwards, but look at that. Look at that. It fits right in there perfectly. And it just comes to the bottom. You can see it's almost perfectly level with the bottom of that wing. There's a little millimeter gap, but not enough that we need to fill it in with foam. Okay, so we're going to do the exact same thing on the other wing. And this will start to make sense once I start running my control rods. You'll kind of see how my thought process has played out here. Right up against that. Right up against it. And that, you can see that that's, if you look at the CG line, just ahead. Just ahead. I mean, the back of the servo is even with the CG line. It's the exact same thing we're going to do on the other side. So, okay. Get my pen. We're going to measure out 4 inches. One, 2, 3, 4. That's where this corner of this is going to go. Like that. Yep. It's right between those two. And I'm going to make sure we got it on a 90 degree. Yeah, just like that. I'm going to make sure we got it on a 90 degree line with this. Yep. Yep. I'm going to trace it. And we're gonna cut it. No point in wasting time. Let's just get it done. I'm not going to be squeamish about cutting this thing open. Let's just do it. You need to cut holes. Like I said, don't be squeamish. Just go at it. Let's make it happen. Right, if you sit there thinking about, oh man, I'm gonna cut holes in my new wing, you'll never get around to cutting them. Just cut it. Just do it. Once you're sure, measure twice, cut once. Just make it happen. Part of building wings is learning to just cut things without thinking about it. There we go, throw on that end. Now we're through on that side. And, yep, all the way through. Just go to the bottom and make sure your cuts went through. Yep, and we're going to pop that piece of foam out. There it comes. Foam out. And we're going to shove a servo in there. That hole actually has to be opened up just a bit more. to make that servo fit. Really jamming it in between the spars here as close as I can get. Okay, just like that. Just like that. And that's that. There you go. Just going to check the geometry of those. Yep. It's 90 degrees. 90 degrees. Okay, so now, yeah, I line up pretty much perfectly in the bottom there. So all I'm going to do is just put some laminate over the bottom of this later after I cut these wires in. And just leave it open like that. That's totally fine. Okay, so let's pop these servos out. Get some glue in there. Now, when you're gluing in servos, if you would cut these servos the other way, the flat way, laying down way, it's never advisable to glue the bottom of the servo to foam. Because then if you ever have to change it, you can't get it out. But if you do it this way with through holes, it's not as big a deal. Because you can just run a knife around the edges and free that glue up. So think about that. You only want to glue the edges of your servos. So if you ever need to get them out, you just take a knife and run it down the edge, down the edge, down the edge, and pull that servo out. And you don't have to worry about the glue on the bottom. If you do feel like you need glue on the bottom of a servo like that, use hot glue, because you can just dissolve that with alcohol. But we're going to goop these in. The goop it is. Amazing goop. Okay. Okay. Let's get gooping. I'm going to put just a healthy smear of goop on all four sides of this servo. Now, when you install your servos, you want your control rods to be as short as possible. You don't want extra control rod. So you want to install the servo in the way that the pivot is towards the back of the plane, so that you don't have the extra control rod having that pivot to the front. So that's what we're going to do. We'll get these things all gooped up. We're just going to jam them in there. Now, you know, we're going to take some of that goop real quick and just smear it inside first, because that's just going to flop out. Make sure you don't get glue near the gears of the servo there. That's important. Get that glue all around the edge of this hole. There we go. And it will squeeze out, and that's fine. So, boom, just like that. Slide it in there, get it seated, and we're just going to let it sit and let it seal up with that goop. Okay, let's do the other one. Let's get that nice and smeared on there. We're going to smear some in here, all around. Good. Drop the wire through. It's a little tough to get in, but we'll make it work. There we go. And just seal that sucker right in there. That's it. And when that goop dries, it'll be in there until you want them to come out. Maybe longer. Alright, that's installing servos. Get the servos in. We're going to break video right there, and next we're going to put the control horns and control rods on. So that's what we'll be doing in the next video. Alright, I'll see you soon.